From a collision in the Gulf of Mexico that shut down the port of Houston for 2 days, and a Hong Kong-flagged ship that knocked over these loading cranes in Turkey, to rival fishing boats in Alaska that are willing to risk everything for salmon, and an ocean dredger in Malaysia that gored the side of this oil tanker, here are 10 incredible ship collisions and mistakes caught on camera. Salmon is like gold in Alaska. Families have been fishing the waters of Prince William Sound for generations. They've made fortunes in the pink salmon market, selling them whole and frozen or chopped up in a can. The business was worth $169 million in 2017. Encroaching on established territory is a big no-no. The Cabana family is one of the largest players in Alaska. They take it personally when unknown boats enter their family fishing ground. So, when 3 men tried to run down a school of salmon in Cabana waters, one of them allegedly tried to force them out. This footage is from a GoPro mounted on the Temptation, a non-Cabana fishing boat helmed by Jason Long. The boat that struck him was piloted by 25-year-old Kami Cabana, a third-generation angler in the Girdwood family. As the story goes, Kami and another Cabana boat were trying to form a blockade, preventing Long from running down the school of salmon. Instead of leaving or maneuvering around, Long hit the throttle and tried to split the gap. He accused Kami of intentionally ramming him. She accused him of reckless boating. The man in orange is a deckhand named Gerald Cunningham. He took a nasty shot on the head when the exhaust stack broke and struck him. Thankfully, doctors were able to treat him after he was airlifted to a nearby hospital. The 2 parties reached a settlement in 2018, and any criminal charges were dropped. Based on this footage alone, it's hard to determine who was at fault. It's obvious that Long sped up to split the gap. You can also see the moment when Cunningham ducks and braces for impact. Who knew salmon fishing was such a dangerous game? The port of Eviap is a major trade hub in Turkey. Also known as Eviaport, it sits in the eastern nook of the Sea of Marmara, between the cities of Gebze and Izmit. Massive shipping vessels are constantly coming and going, so it was only a matter of time before something bad happened. On March 16th of 2024, a Hong Kong-flagged ship called the YM Witness came into berth at Eviaport. Unfortunately, the captain took too sharp an angle while docking. The nose of his boat clipped a loading crane, and it was all downhill from there.
Oh, SSG'ye vurdu. SSG'ye vurdu. SSG'ler gidiyor. Lan hop! Lan seni kaptan yapalım bu limana. Hop! Allah! SSG düştü. Eyvah eyvah! Eyvah eyvah! Lan retegecilere bir şey olmasın bari. Anons et. Kerem.
CCTV footage gives us a better angle of the crash. Watch how the ship slowly pushes the middle crane into the others. It might be moving slowly, but there's a whole lot of force behind that container ship. Now, it's unclear what's under those green tarps. From our cameraman's angle, it looks an awful lot like cars. According to Yang Ming, the company in charge of the ship, no injuries or pollution were reported after the accident. They have since launched an investigation to determine how such a massive blunder could have happened in the first place. If you ordered something from Turkey recently, this is why it hasn't come yet. The MF Skånevik is a passenger ferry operating in the Norwegian fjords. It can carry 99 people and up to 21 cars between the villages of Leuvik and Lysebotn in southern Norway. Along the way, it makes 27 hairpin turns, which requires extra attention from the captain. It was the summer of 2023. Passengers on board the MF Skånevik questioned why their boat was suddenly heading straight for a rock wall. Everybody braced for impact when they learned that the captain was asleep at the wheel. Thankfully, the collision wasn't bad enough to sink the boat. The captain woke up and corrected the course, but had about 100 angry passengers looking for answers. An investigation discovered 10 major deficiencies on board the MF Skånevik. To put it simply, the crew had no idea what they were doing. Thankfully, nobody got hurt during the crash. It's unclear if the napping captain found himself in any legal trouble. The Tanjung Bruas port is a small hub in the Malacca Strait. It's located along one of the world's busiest trade routes, as ships sail around Malaysia en route to China or India. About 25% of all traded goods pass through these waters. But even with all that traffic, it seems impossible for two massive ships to crash on the open water. Apparently, it happens more often than you'd think. On October 2nd of 2020, crewmen standing on the docks watched in horror as the Ocean Line 5001 hopper dredger plowed full steam ahead into an oil tanker. This is what happens when you make one miscalculation out at sea. From what we can gather, the dredger was traveling from the Kota Laksmana land reclamation area to an extraction site near the Tanjung Bruas port. The dredger's bow pierced the tanker above the waterline, which is the best-case scenario if you're gonna gore a ship like a rhino. The tanker did sustain some damage, but it didn't sink. Nobody on board either vessel sustained any injuries. As for what caused the crash, some speculated whether the captain crashed it on purpose. At the time, there had been unrest among the local fishermen due to heavy congestion in the area. Was this an act of maritime road rage, or just plain incompetence? We may never know. The Houston Ship Channel is a critical waterway in the Gulf of Mexico. It serves the Port of Houston, which is the largest port in terms of waterborne tonnage in the United States. The port also drives Texas's economy, supporting 1.54 million jobs throughout the state. So, when something goes wrong out on the water, all of Texas pays attention. On May 10th of 2019, a 754-foot liquefied gas carrier called the Genesis River found itself on a collision course with a 300-foot barge. According to the official report, the Genesis was heading out of port when it crossed paths with a 69-foot towing vessel that was hauling two petrochemical barges into port. Neither could get out of the way in time. According to the NTSB report, the Genesis River had just passed the BW Oak, another massive liquefied gas vessel, without issue. Then, the Genesis pilot lost control when he kicked his vessel up to sea speed after maneuvering around the Oak. In the pilot's defense, the Houston Ship Channel is extremely narrow and has a large amount of traffic. Mastering each tiny move takes years of practice and training. The NTSB report determined that everyone was properly trained and credentialed to make this journey. They were well rested, and there wasn't a drop of alcohol between them. It seems like this captain and crew knew exactly what they were doing. The dice simply weren't in their favor that day. The accident closed the Houston Ship Channel for 2 days and cost over $15 million between damages and cleanup. Balıkesir province is a coastal state in northwestern Turkey. It's home to about 1.2 million people and provides easy access to the Sea of Marmara and the Aegean Sea. Alternatively, people can take ferries to different parts of Turkey or to the Greek islands off of its western shores. On July 12th of 2017, a ferry named Çanakkale was heading back to shore when the captain grossly underestimated how fast he was going. Without time or space to slow the boat, all anybody could do was brace for impact. Now began the tedious task of moving all that broken concrete. Based on the 2 black pieces on the pier, it looks like this is where the ferry was supposed to dock. It just wasn't supposed to come in so fast. You can also see where the exploding concrete nearly flipped this pickup truck. Thankfully, nobody on board or on the pier got hurt during the crash. Hoboken, New Jersey is a small metro in Hudson County. It's home to about 60,000 people, many of whom commute roughly 20 minutes to work in New York City. You'll also find plenty of spots dedicated to Frank Sinatra, as the famous crooner was born there in 1915. Fast forward 103 years to May 24th of 2018. It's prom night at Weehawken High School, and the senior class is on board the cornucopia Destiny. It was a night none of them would ever forget. Unfortunately, it was for all the wrong reasons.
Best happy hour ever.
According to the fire chief, Cornucopia Destiny was trying to leave the pier when it crashed into the Cornucopia Sundancer, which was docked nearby. About 100 students were on board when the boats collided. Thankfully, none of them got hurt. They were a little bummed out, however, when the police told them the prom was canceled. Luckily, the school was able to reschedule quickly. The prom got moved to Saturday on board the Spirit of New Jersey yacht. Needless to say, it was smooth sailing from there. Trade in Belgium relies heavily on the Brussels-Willebroek Canal, which links the port of Antwerp to the capital city. The canal connects to the Scheldt River, which inevitably leads to the North Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. Since Brussels is otherwise landlocked, any disruptions can cause major economic consequences. One of those disruptions occurred on December 30th of 2022, when a chemical tanker was trying to navigate through the canal. It tried going under the Buda Bridge, which normally raises to allow ships to pass. Either the operator forgot to raise the road, or our captain was asleep at the helm. Traffic moves steadily across the bridge as the video begins. It's clear that nobody is expecting a boat anytime soon. That's when the tanker appears on the right side of your screen. You don't need a master's degree to know this isn't going to end well. The ship smashes clean into the bridge as more cars are passing over. Luckily, it holds up. The accident damaged the bridge so badly that they couldn't lift it anymore. Since repairs would take too long, they decided to remove the deck so that boats could pass. It took several years, but the Buda Bridge appears to have reopened in May of 2024. Hopefully, nobody crashes into it again. The port of Santo Domingo is the Dominican Republic's main maritime trade hub. It's also how many people access the capital city via ferries from other countries. One of those boats, a Caribbean ferry named Kaidon, was a little too eager to dock. It was May 18th of 2017. The Kaidon had come into dock and had even lowered its exit ramp. The crew was tying the ferry up when an aggressive current pushed it forward. The ropes snapped, and Mother Nature took over from there. Those standing on the dock were forced to run for their lives. It's hard to tell from this video, but the ship's ramp is actually causing all the damage. Lucky for us, somebody stayed behind and recorded the crash from another angle. The 630-foot ferry knocked over several containers and even blocked part of the parallel roadway. Concrete barriers rolled into the street, and a forklift nearly landed in the left lane. Thankfully, all the workers got out of the way, and nobody on board the ferry got hurt. The boat only needed minor repairs and was back on the water in 2 weeks. If you enjoyed this video and want to see another just like it, be sure to click the link on screen now. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.